Step into the ancient world of the Sumerians, a people who laid the foundations of civilization in the 3rd millennium BCE. Nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates, rivers in what is now southern Iraq, they thrived in the Fertile Crescent, a land of lush soils that birthed agriculture and urban life. Here they built city-states, Uruk, Lagash, Nippur, and Shuruppak, each a self-contained realm with its own ruler, law's army and divine protector. At the core of every city loomed a ziggurat, a massive step temple where priests performed rituals to appease the gods, believed to control all facets of existence. The Sumerians' origins remain elusive, their language unrelated to any other, deepens the mystery. Were they indigenous to Mesopotamia, or did they arrive from distant lands? No texts reveal the answer, yet their achievements speak volumes. They transformed scattered villages into bustling cities, pioneering urban planning and social hierarchy. Ziggurats weren't just religious hubs. They symbolized human ambition, linking Earth to the heavens. The Sumerians saw gods as cosmic overlords and humans as their servants, a belief that shaped their culture and myths. Their environment was both ally and adversary. The rivers nourished crops but could flood unpredictably, threatening ruin. To master this, the Sumerians engineered irrigation canals, turning swamps into fertile fields. This surplus fed growing populations, freeing some to become artisans, scribes, or priests. Their society grew complex, with rulers claiming divine favor and priests reading omens in stars and entrails. City-states competed yet shared a cultural thread, united by language and faith. Added context from me. The Sumerians' irrigation was a game-changer, not just for crops but for society itself. Surplus food meant specialized roles, birthing professions we still recognize. Ziggurats, like Ur's, stood as engineering feats, their baked brick cores enduring millennia. Excavations revealed their wealth. Ur's royal tombs held gold daggers and lapis lazuli ornaments, signs of trade stretching to Afghanistan. Their language's isolation suggests a unique worldview, perhaps why their myths feel so distinct. Blending awe of nature with a sense of cosmic duty, the Sumerians weren't just builders of cities. They were innovators who reshaped human history. Around 3000 BCE, they invented cuneiform, the world's first writing system. With sharpened reeds, they etched wedge-shaped marks into soft clay tablets, which were sun-dried or baked for durability. These tablets captured laws, contracts, hymns, and stories, preserving their world for posterity. Cuneiform wasn't merely practical, it was transformative, enabling complex administration and cultural memory. The Sumerians also devised a sexagesimal system, dividing time into units of 60, a legacy in our clocks today. They introduced wheeled carts, clay token accounting, an early banking system, and irrigation networks that tamed Mesopotamia's wild rivers. Their ingenuity touched every sphere. City-states had written laws, predating later codes like Hammurabi's. Scribes, trained in temple schools, mastered cuneiform's intricate signs, recording everything from grain tallies to epic poetry. Taxes were tracked, labor organized, and trade flourished, linking Sumer to distant lands. Yet their greatest gift was mythology. They believed gods ruled the cosmos, creating humans to toil in their place. These tales, etched in clay, survived Sumer's fall, adopted by Babylonians and Assyrians. Babylonian Marduk, once a minor Sumerian deity, became a creator god, while Assyrian Ashur embodied war and empire, showing how Sumer's stories evolved with new powers. Added context from me. Cuneiform's scope was vast. Tablets hold Sumer's first love poems, math problems, and even beer recipes, revealing a vibrant society. Dig sites like Nippur yield school texts, where scribes practiced signs, hinting at rigorous education. The sexagesimal system also fueled astronomy. Sumerians mapped stars for omens, merging science with spirituality. Their myth's survival owes to clay's resilience. Unlike fragile papyrus, tablets endured, letting us read words scribes wrote 5,000 years ago. This durability made Sumer a cultural anchor for Mesopotamia, its ideas rippling through time. Sumerian myths weren't just tales, they were a framework for understanding life, death, and the divine. Their stories profoundly influenced later cultures, including biblical narratives. Consider the Great Flood, recorded in Sumerian cuneiform centuries before Genesis. In their myth, Ziusudra, a devout man learns from Enki, god of wisdom, that the gods plan to flood the earth. He builds an ark, survives the deluge, and gains immortality. This story resurfaces in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a Sumerian-rooted Babylonian epic, with Utnapishtim as the flood hero. The Bible's Noah follows suit. Same ark, same divine warning, same salvation. Details shift, but the archetype endures. The Sumerian afterlife also echoes in scripture. They imagined a bleak underworld, a dusty realm where souls lingered, fed by offerings from the living. This mirrors Sheol in early Jewish texts, a grim abode for all, rich or poor. Biblical figures like Nimrod, the hunter-king linked to Babylon, may draw from Sumerian heroes like Gilgamesh, Uruk's ruler who defied gods and chased eternal life. These connections weren't chance. Cuneiform tablets, inscribed with reed styluses, preserved Sumerian myths with precision. Babylonian scribes copied them, spreading ideas across Mesopotamia. When Babylon and Assyria rose, they retooled Sumer's gods and stories, ensuring their legacy. Added context from me. The flood myth's persistence across cultures may stem from real events. Sediment layers at sites like Shuruppak, dated to 2900 BCE, suggest massive floods. The Sumerian underworld's starkness, lacking reward or punishment, reflects their focus on earthly service to gods, contrasting later notions of paradise or hell. Gilgamesh's echo in Nimrod shows Sumerian heroes as templates, flawed, bold, and wrestling with mortality. Cuneiform's permanence was key. Tablets from Lagash to Nineveh carried Sumer's voice, making it a cultural DNA for the ancient Near East. To Sumerians, the world didn't emerge from a single god's command or void. It arose from chaos, a primal force older than deities or time. Picture an infinite ocean, lightless and formless, brimming with raw potential. This was Abzu, the freshwater abyss, a living entity of untamed power. Below lay Namu, the subterranean waters, a shadowy realm even gods couldn't fathom. These concepts later fed Babylonian myths and biblical images of the deep. From this chaos, the first gods sparked into being, uncreated, like embers from a cosmic fire. Among them were An, the sky's essence, and Ki, the earth's spirit, fused in a primal embrace. For the world to form, chaos had to yield. Sky and earth needed separation, a painful but vital act. Ninhursag, the Lady of the Mountains, she stepped forth, shaping hills, parting waters, and carving riverbeds. Her work was no mere creation but a crafting, molding chaos into order like clay on a potter's wheel. Yet the world stayed volatile. Rivers could flood, lands turned barren. Stability demanded hierarchy, and the sky god ruled supreme but aloof, rarely intervening. Kai pulsed with life, nurturing Earth's bounty. Their parting birthed Enlil, god of storms who tore sky from earth, forging the cosmos as Sumerians knew it. This cosmogony wasn't abstract. It mirrored Mesopotamia's rivers and storms. Sumerians saw creation as ongoing, gods laboring to maintain order against chaos's pull. Ninhursag's role highlights their reverence for nature's dual power, nurturing yet fierce. Added context from me. The Sumerian cosmos reflects their world. Rivers gave life but could destroy, much like Abzu's dual nature. Ninhursag's prominence shows a respect for feminine divine power, seen in artifacts like Uruk's goddess figurines, blending fertility with strength. Their creation wasn't a one-off but a process, echoing their daily struggle to control floods via canals. Archaeological clues, like Eridu's early shrines, suggest Abzu was worshipped as a real force, tying myth to place. This fluid cosmology set Sumer apart, shaping later myths where gods battled chaos. From Babylon's Tiamat to biblical Leviathan, at the cosmos's peak sat An, the sky god, distant and absolute. Like a star, he shone untouchable, delegating rule to his children. His authority was unquestioned, but he rarely meddled, leaving Earth to others. Enlil, god of storms and order, became the pantheon's enforcer. He ensured gods received sacrifices and humans obeyed, his will shaping fate. Defy him and his wrath was cataclysmic. Take the Great Flood, a Sumerian tale predating Noah. Enlil, irked by humanity's clamor, rallied gods to drown the world, believing mortals had grown too noisy. Yet Enlil faced a rival, Enki, god of wisdom, water, and cunning. Where Enlil demanded compliance, Enki wove loopholes, favoring creativity over control. Their clash drove Sumerian myths, sparking tales of gods, humans, and Earth's fate. Enlil sought to erase humanity. Enki saved it, warning Ziusudra to build an ark. When Enlil found survivors, his fury gave way to grudging acceptance, granting Ziusudra immortality in a far-off land. To Sumerians, humans were divine laborers, molded from clay to serve gods, freeing deities from toil. As cities grew, so did human noise, provoking Enlil's flood, a metaphor, perhaps for urban unrest. Added context from me. Enki and Enlil embody a timeless tension, order versus freedom. Enki's compassion, seen in clay figurines from Eridu depicting him with water jars, casts him as humanity's advocate, a trait rare in ancient pantheons. The flood story, found on tablets from Sippar, may reflect real urban stresses as Sumer's cities swelled, straining resources. Pan's remoteness mirrors Sumerian kings, who ruled via proxies, a parallel seen in Ur's administrative seals. This pantheon wasn't static. Gods evolved with society, their rivalries echoing human struggles, a dynamic that enriched Sumer's storytelling and influenced later epics like Gilgamesh. Among the Sumerians' greatest legacies is the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of humanity's oldest written stories. Rooted in their myths, Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, was no mere mortal to them. 2/3 divine, 1/3 human. He embodied strength and ambition, but also human flaws. The epic, later expanded by Babylonians, began as Sumerian tales etched in cuneiform. In it, Gilgamesh wrestles with his own arrogance, oppressing Uruk's people until the gods craft Enkidu, a wild man to rival him. Their clash turns to friendship, and together they slay Humbaba, a monstrous guardian, and defy the goddess Inanna by killing the bull of heaven. These acts anger the gods, who punish Enkidu with death, plunging Gilgamesh into despair. His quest for immortality drives him to Utnapishtim, the flood survivor granted eternal life. Utnapishtim shares his tale, how Enki warned him of Enlil's deluge, prompting him to build an ark. Yet he tells Gilgamesh immortality is unattainable for mortals. Accepting his fate, Gilgamesh returns to Uruk, embracing his legacy as a king who builds rather than destroys. The epic reflects Sumerian values, heroism tempered by humility, the inevitability of death, and the search for meaning in a god-ruled world. To Sumerians, Gilgamesh wasn't just a story, he was a cultural mirror. Their kings, like him, claimed divine favor yet faced mortal limits. The epic's flood narrative, echoing Ziusudra's myth, ties it to their broader cosmology, where gods test humanity's worth. Added context from me. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a window into Sumerian psychology. Its blend of bravado and vulnerability feels universal, resonating even today. Tablets from Nineveh show the epic's evolution, but Uruk's ruins, with massive walls tied to Gilgamesh, ground it in place. Enkidu's arc, from wild to civilized, mirrors Sumer's own shift from nomadic roots to urban life. The flood's inclusion suggests a shared trauma, perhaps real floods like those at Kish around 2800 BCE. Gilgamesh's failure to cheat death underscores a Sumerian truth. Humans serve gods, but their legacy lies in deeds, not eternity, a theme etched in Ur's enduring monuments. The Sumerian pantheon included the Anunnaki, a group of high gods who shaped the cosmos and human destiny. The term Anunnaki means those of royal blood or offspring of An, the sky god. They weren't a single class but major deities like Enlil, Enki, and Inanna, ruling from celestial courts. In myths, they met in assemblies, debating humanity's fate, like when they chose to flood the earth, only for Enki to intervene. The Anunnaki were both creators and overseers, crafting humans from clay to serve them, a task detailed in texts like Atrahasis. A Sumerian-rooted Babylonian tale, humans to Sumerians were tools for divine leisure. After crafting the world, gods grew tired of labor, digging rivers, tending fields, so Enki and Ninhursag molded mortals to bear the yoke. This wasn't benevolence, it was pragmatism. Humans toiled, built temples and offered grain, ensuring cosmic order. But as cities swelled, so did human noise, a metaphor for rebellion or overpopulation, prompting Enlil's flood. The Anunnaki's power wasn't absolute. They bickered, schemed, and disagreed, mirroring human politics. Enki's defiance to save Ziusudra shows their complex dynamics, not unlike a royal family with rival agendas. The Anunnaki later inspired Babylonian and Assyrian gods, their roles shifting with new empires. Marduk, for instance, rose as Babylon's chief, absorbing Enlil's traits. Their name endures in modern lore, often tied to fringe theories of ancient aliens, which misread Sumerian texts for sci-fi fantasies. Added context from me. The Anunnaki's assembly reflects Sumerian governance, city-state councils, like Lagash's debated policy, suggesting myths drew from life. Tablets from Nippur describe humans as clay, a nod to Mesopotamia's muddy rivers, tying creation to earth. The noise in myths may echo real urban strain. Ur's population boom around 2500 BCE stretched resources, sparking tension. Fringe alien theories, popularized by figures like Sitchin, distort cuneiform's clear context. Anunnaki were gods, not extraterrestrials. Their fluidity, seen in Eridu's Enki shrines, shows Sumer's myths adapting to local needs, a flexibility that ensured their cultural longevity. Sumerian life revolved around the divine, and temples were its pulse. Each city-state had a central temple tied to a patron god. Uruks to Inanna, Nepus to Enlil, ziggurats. Their step towers weren't just buildings. They were cosmic links, mimicking mountains where gods dwelt. Priests climbed their ramps to offer food, wine and incense, believing gods consumed these in spirit. Rituals were meticulous. Daily offerings, lunar festivals, and divinations where priests read omens in sheep livers or star patterns. These acts weren't optional. They ensured divine favor, staving off floods, famine, or war. Temples doubled as economic hubs. They owned vast lands, managed by scribes who tracked grain and labor on clay tablets. Priests weren't just spiritual guides, but administrators, overseeing irrigation and trade. Women held key roles too. High priestesses like Enheduanna of Ur composed hymns blending devotion with propaganda, cementing rulers' divine ties. Enheduanna's works, among the earliest signed texts, praise Inanna, showing Sumerian women's influence in sacred spaces. Myths fueled these rites. Stories of Enki crafting humans or Enlil's flood weren't abstract. They justified offerings to appease gods. Temples staged dramas reenacting myths, like Inanna's descent to the underworld, a tale of death and rebirth tied to seasons. Failure to honor gods risked chaos, a fear rooted in Mesopotamia's volatile rivers. Added context from me. Ziggurats like Ur's were engineering marvels, their brick cores surviving millennia. Ur stands 70 feet today. Tablets from Sippar detail temple budgets, showing their economic might. Some held more land than kings. Enheduanna's hymns found at Ur blend poetry and power, hinting at women's literacy in elite circles. Rituals mirrored Sumer's environment. Inanna's myth echoes dying crops, reflecting reliance on seasonal rains. Divination wasn't superstition but survival. Omens guided planting, seen in Ebla's oracle texts. Temples were Sumer's heart, weaving faith, economy, and myth into a resilient social fabric. Inanna, Sumer's goddess of love, war and fertility, was no gentle deity. She was a force of passion and power. Known later as Babylon's Ishtar, she ruled Uruk's heart, her temple a beacon of devotion. Myths paint her vividly, ambitious, cunning, and fierce. In one tale, she tricks Enki, her father, into giving her the Me, divine powers governing everything from kingship to weaving. Drunk on wine, Enki hands them over, only to regret it as Inanna sails away, securing Uruk's supremacy. Another myth, her descent to the underworld, sees her challenge her sister Ereshkigal, queen of the dead. Stripped of power and slain, Inanna rises after 3 days, a cycle tied to Venus's orbit and seasonal renewal. Inanna's duality, love and war, mirrored Sumerian life. Cities needed fertility for crops and strength for defense, and she embodied both. Her priestesses, some acting as sacred consorts, channeled her in rituals, blending spirituality with politics. Kings claimed her favor, their crowns gifted by her in myths legitimizing rule. Her hymns, like those by Enheduanna, Ur's priestess, blend adoration with cosmic awe, portraying Inanna as creation's spark. She wasn't alone. Ninhursag, the mother goddess, shaped earth and birthed gods, her temples at Kish honoring life's origins. Together, they show Sumer's reverence for the divine feminine, not as passive but as dynamic, shaping cosmos and society. Added context from me, Inanna's Venus link, seen in Uruk's star motifs, tied her to astronomy. Sumerians tracked her planet for omens. Her descent myth on Nippur tablets prefigures resurrection tales, influencing Greek Persephone. Enheduanna's hymns etched in clay are feminist milestones, showing women's voices in power. Ninhursag's role, tied to Eridu's clay pits, grounds creation in Mesopotamia's soil. Inanna's priestesses, evidenced in Ur's seals, wielded real influence from ritual to trade. This feminine divine wasn't ornamental. It drove Sumer's cultural engine, balancing nurture with ferocity in a harsh world. The Sumerian flood myth is among their most enduring tales, predating and shaping biblical Noah. In it, the gods, led by Enlil, tire of humanity's noise, perhaps overpopulation or defiance. They decree a deluge to erase mankind. Enki, ever humanity's ally, defies the council, warning Ziusudra, a pious king, to build an ark. Ziusudra loads it with animals and kin, weathering the flood's fury. When waters recede, he sacrifices to the gods, earning Enlil's reluctant mercy. Ziusudra is granted immortality, sent to a distant land, a bittersweet reward for obedience. This tale, found in cuneiform like the Epic of Atrahasis, reveals Sumerian views on humanity's role. Humans were created to serve gods, easing divine labor. Texts describe Enki and Ninhursag mixing clay with divine essence to form mortals, a practical act to free gods from digging canals. But humans weren't cherished, they were tools, their worth tied to obedience. The flood shows God's power to reset creation when mortals overstep. Yet Enki's mercy hints at divine care, however rare. The myth's echoes in Gilgamesh, where Utnapishtim recounts a similar flood, and in Genesis show its reach. To Sumerians, it wasn't just history. It justified their toilsome lives, offering hope that piety could sway gods, even amid cosmic indifference. Added context from me, the flood's noise may reflect real crises. Ur's growth around Durti 600 BCE, strained water and land, per archaeological records. Ziusudra's ark, detailed on Sippar tablets, mirrors Sumerian reed boats, grounding myth in technology. Enki's role as savior, seen in Eridu's water shrines, casts him as a proto-redeemer, distinct from Enlil's severity. Geological evidence like Shurupak's flood layers suggests a 2900 BCE deluge anchoring the tale. The Sumerian view of humans as servants, not heirs, contrasts later faiths. Yet their clay origin, tied to Tigris mud, feels intimate, rooting mankind in Mesopotamia's earth. Enki, Sumer's god of wisdom, water and creation, stands as one of their most compelling deities. Unlike Enlil's stern authority, Enki was cunning, compassionate and inventive, often bending divine rules to aid mortals. His domain was the Abzu, the freshwater abyss beneath the earth, source of life in Mesopotamia's arid heart. Myths portray him as humanity's creator and protector. In the Atrahasis tale, when gods tire of labor, Enki proposes crafting humans from clay mixed with divine blood, giving them life to serve deities. Ninhursag, the mother goddess, aids him, shaping mortals like potters. A vivid image etched in Sumerian texts. Enki's greatest act was defying the god's flood decree. When Enlil, angered by human noise, plans to drown mankind, Enki leaks the secret to Ziusudra, instructing him to build an ark. This rebellion saves humanity, showcasing Enki's belief that mortals, though servants, deserve a chance. After the flood, Enki negotiates with Enlil, securing Ziusudra's immortality. Other myths highlight his wit, like when Inanna tricks him into giving her the Mi, divine powers, only for Enki to accept her victory with a smile, admiring her boldness. Enki's temples, like Eridu's, were sacred hubs, their pools symbolizing his watery realm. Priests invoked him for fertility, wisdom, and magic. Seeing him as a bridge between gods and men, his legacy flowed into Babylonian Ea, preserving his role as a cosmic problem solver. Added context from me, Enki's Abzu, tied to Eridu's real springs, made him vital in a dry land. Tablets from describe rituals channeling his waters for crops. His clay humans, detailed in Nippur's myths, reflect Sumer's muddy rivers, grounding creation in daily life. The flood rebellion on Sippar tablets paints Enki as a divine maverick, a rarity in rigid pantheons. Archaeological finds, like Eridu's fish offerings, link him to sustenance, showing his practical worship. Enki's trickster side, outsmarted by Inanna, adds humor, humanizing gods, a trait seen in Uruk's playful seals. His enduring appeal lies in balancing power with empathy, a Sumerian ideal that shaped later savior figures across cultures. Enlil, Sumer's storm god, was the pantheon's enforcer, second only to An, the sky god. His name means Lord of the Air, and his power roared through winds and tempests, shaping the cosmos and human fate. From his temple in Nippur, the religious heart of Sumer, Enlil upheld divine order, ensuring gods received offerings and mortals stayed subservient. Myths cast him as stern but essential. Without his decrees, chaos would reclaim the world. In creation tales, Enlil separates sky from earth, parting Anunnaki to form the universe, a violent act that births stability. Yet Enlil's temper was fearsome. In the flood myth, humanity's noise, was perhaps overpopulation or defiance, irks him, prompting a deluge to erase mankind. Only Enki's defiance, saving Ziusudra, thwarts his plan. Enlil's rage subsides when he sees survivors' piety, granting Ziusudra immortality. But his point is clear: mortals exist to obey. Other tales show his might, like when he grants kingship to Sumer's rulers, their crowns tied to his will. Nippur's Iker temple, dubbed Mountain House, was his throne, where priests offered sheep and grain to appease him. Enlil's role faded as Babylon rose, with Marduk taking his place, but his essence, authority, and order endured. To Sumerians, he was the cosmos's backbone, his storms both destructive and life-giving. Mirroring Mesopotamia's volatile rivers, added context for me. Enlil's Nippur temple, excavated with clay altars, was Sumer's spiritual capital, drawing pilgrims like a Mesopotamian Vatican. His storm imagery on Ur's reliefs tied to real weather, floods that could ruin or enrich fields. The noise in flood myths per Lagash tablets may echo urban unrest as cities like Ur swelled around. 2600 BCE, Enlil's kingship grants, seen in Kish's royal lists, show rulers as his proxies, a political theology. His clash with Enki, detailed in Eridu texts, mirrors Sumer's own city-state rivalries, blending divine and human dramas. Enlil's legacy as Order's guardian influenced Babylonian law codes, rooting justice in divine will, a Sumerian gift to history. Ninhursag, the Lady of the Mountains, was Sumer's mother goddess, a shaper of life and land. Her myths portray her as a cosmic artisan, molding the world from chaos. In creation tales, she works with Enki to form humans, mixing clay with divine essence to craft mortals as God's laborers. One text, the myth of Enki and Ninhursag, describes her birthing gods and shaping Earth's features, hills, rivers, plains, like a sculptor. Her touch brings fertility. Her temples at Kish and Adab, centers of worship for birth and growth. Ninhursag's role wasn't passive. In some stories, she challenges Enki, testing his wisdom or healing his ailments, showing her power as equal to male gods. Her creation of humans isn't just practical, it's intimate, as she molds each figure with care, a contrast to Enlil's aloof decrees. Another tale ties her to the first kings, granting them strength to rule, their legitimacy rooted in her nurture. Her symbols, omega-shaped hair and clay vessels, adorn Sumerian art, linking her to midwives and potters, everyday creators. Her influence lingered in Babylonian Nintu and Assyrian Aruru, goddesses of birth, but Ninhursag's Sumerian roots are distinct. She's both gentle and fierce, life's source and its protector. Temples held rituals in her name, with hymns praising her as Earth's womb, ensuring crops and children thrived. Added context from me, Ninhursag's clay imagery on Uruk's seals ties to Mesopotamia's riverbeds, where potters worked. Creation was literally earthy. Her Kish temple with birth amulets shows her worship aided women, blending myth with medicine. The Enki myth from Nippur tablets has her heel with plants, hinting at herbal knowledge. Her omega symbol, seen in Eridu's figurines, evokes wombs, tying her to human origins. Unlike later passive goddesses, Ninhursag's agency, challenging Enki or crowning kings, mirrors Sumerian queens, like Puabi of Ur, buried with gold. Her dual role as nurturer and power broker shaped Sumer's view of femininity, influencing myths from Babylon to Canaan, where mother goddesses held sway. Sumerians saw death as a descent to a grim underworld, a dusty realm ruled by Ereshkigal, Inanna's sister. Unlike later heavens or hells, this Kur was no place of reward or punishment, just a shadowland where souls lingered, eating clay and dust unless fed by living kin's offerings. Myths like Inanna's descent vividly depict it. Inanna, seeking power, enters Kur but is stripped of her divine trappings, judged and slain. Revived after 3 days by Enki's magic, she escapes, but her lover Dumuzi pays the price, cycling between life and death. A metaphor for seasons, this afterlife wasn't hopeful, it was bleak, reflecting Sumerian focus on earthly duty over posthumous dreams. Rituals sustained the dead. Families left food at graves, detailed in Ur's burial texts. To ease their kin's lot, priests performed rites to appease Ereshkigal, whose rule was absolute. Her court a bureaucracy of demons and shades. Other myths hint at exceptions, like Zeosudra's immortality, but these were divine gifts, not mortal rites. The underworld's gate with 7 judges appears in Nippur's tablets, a chilling image of finality. This vision influenced later faiths. Biblical Sheol, a joyless abode, echoes Kur's gloom, as do Babylonian underworld tales. To Sumerians, life was for serving gods. Death was mere existence, sustained by memory and sacrifice. Added context from me. Kur's starkness on Sippar tablets mirrors Sumer's harsh reality. Life was fragile, death certain. Ur's royal tombs with sacrificed retainers suggest elites hoped for better afterlives, but myths offered no such promise for most. Inanna's descent, tied to Venus's cycle, reflects astronomy's role in ritual. Uruk's star charts confirm this. Ereshkigal's power, seen in Eridu's demon seals, shows a feminine underworld, distinct from male sky gods. Family offerings evidenced at Lagash graves tied communities to ancestors, a social glue. Kur's influence on Sheol, per Ugarit's texts, shows Sumer's reach, framing death as a universal leveling, a sober lens on humanity's place under divine rule. In Sumer, kings weren't just rulers, they were gods chosen, bridging heaven and earth. Myths tied kingship to divine will, claiming it descended from heaven after the flood. Per the Sumerian king list, a cuneiform record blending fact and legend. Cities like Kish, Ur, and Uruk boasted kings who claimed Enlil's or Inanna's favor, their crowns symbols of cosmic approval. Gilgamesh, Uruk's mythical king, epitomized this. His epic blends mortal grit with divine heritage, his rule both a burden and a mandate. Kings led rituals acting as high priests. In Ur, they offered first fruits to Nanna, the moon god, ensuring harvests. They built temples like Ur's ziggurat to honor gods and cement power. Yet kingship wasn't absolute. City assemblies, per Lagash texts, curbed royal excess, a proto-democracy. Myths reinforce this balance. Enlil grants rule, but Inanna can withdraw it, as when she spurns bad kings. Women ruled too. Kubaba of Kish, a rare queen, inspired later goddesses, her reign etched in clay. Post-Sumer, Babylonian kings like Hammurabi adopted this divine model, did their laws claiming Marduk's blessing. Sumerian kingship shaped governance, blending faith and politics in a template for empires. Added context from me. The king list found at Nippur mixes real rulers like Ur's Masanapada with mythic reigns lasting millennia, showing Sumer's fluid history. Uruk's walls tied to Gilgamesh stand today, proof of royal ambition. Ritual roles seen in Ur's gold vessels tied kings to prosperity. Failure risked divine wrath per Sippar omens. Kubaba's reign on Kish tablets hints at women's power, echoed in Puabi's tomb wealth. Assemblies evidenced at Girsu suggest Sumer's rulers answered to elites, balancing divine right with civic voice. This model, per Akkadian seals, influenced Babylon's theocracy, rooting law in gods, a Sumerian legacy shaping justice from Nineveh to Jerusalem. By the late 3rd millennium BCE, Sumer's golden age waned. City-states like Uruk and Lagash, once vibrant, faced internal strife and external threats. Rivalries weakened them. Texts from Gursu detail disputes over water rights, draining unity. Around 2000 BCE, invasions by Elamites from the east and Amorites from the west overwhelmed. Sumer's defenses, the last great Sumerian city, fell in 1940 BCE, its ziggurat looted. Lamentation poems etched in cuneiform. These texts mourn broken temples and scattered people, a raw glimpse of loss. Sumer didn't vanish, it transformed. Akkadian rulers, who had unified Mesopotamia under Sargon centuries earlier, absorbed Sumerian culture. Babylonians and Assyrians inherited their gods, myths and writing, adapting them to new empires. Enlil's role passed to Marduk in Babylon, while Inanna became Ishtar, her ferocity intact. Cuneiform, Sumer's gift, endured for millennia, used from Hittite courts to Persian archives. The Epic of Gilgamesh, rooted in Sumer, was recited in Nineveh's libraries. Even biblical tales, Noah's flood, Eden's garden, bear Sumerian fingerprints, their clay-born humans echoing Enki's creations. Sumer's innovations, irrigation, laws, urban planning, shaped civilization's blueprint. Their sexagesimal math underpins our clocks, their wheel rolls in modern carts. Though their cities crumbled, their ideas seeded the ancient world from Greece to India. Added context from me, Ur's fall detailed on Sippar tablets wasn't just military, famine, Shurupak's grain records, starved resistance. Lamentations like Ur's are poetic archaeology, capturing grief as vividly as any ruin. Akkadian seals from Nippur show Sumerian gods enduring, proof of cultural fusion. Babylon's Enuma Elish, built on Sumer's cosmos, shows their myth's adaptability, while Ugarit's flood tales link Sumer to Canaan. Excavations at Eridu reveal Sumer's irrigation canals, still traced in Iraq's soil, a testament to their engineering. Their legacy isn't just relics, it's the DNA of cities, laws and stories from Hammurabi's Code to Genesis, making Sumer a root of human progress. Sumer's myths preserved in clay captivate us today, but modern lenses often distort them. The Anunnaki, Sumer's high gods, fuel fringe theories claiming they were ancient aliens who engineered humanity. Popularized by writers like Zecharia Sitchin in the 20th century, these ideas misread cuneiform texts, twisting Anunnaki, meaning offspring of An, into extraterrestrial overlords. Sumerian tablets like those from Nippur are clear. Anunnaki were deities, Enlil, Enki, Inanna, ruling a divine assembly, not spaceship captains. Myths of humans made from clay were about divine labor, not genetic labs. These theories stem from Sumer's vivid imagery, gods descending, crafting life, but ignore context. Cuneiform describes Enki shaping mortals for toil, a metaphor for Sumer's labor-driven society, not alien intervention. Scholars decoding tablets at Uruk find no hint of otherworldly visitors. Instead, they see a people grappling with nature and fate. Yet the alien narrative persists. Fueled by Sumer's mystery, its isolated language and sudden innovations spark wonder. Real Sumerian influence is grander. Their myths shaped Babylonian epics, biblical floods, even Greek tales of gods and mortals. Today, Sumer's voice endures in museums, Ur's gold lyres, Eridu's seals, and in our timekeeping and cities. Their stories, not sci-fi, reveal humanity's first questions about purpose, power, and eternity. Added context from me, Sitchin's theories, debunked by Assyriologists like those at Oxford, clash with tablets' mundane details, tax lists beside myths, no UFOs. Sumer's sudden civilization, Turkish digs, evolved over centuries, not alien gifts. Their language's uniqueness, seen in Lagash's grammar, fuels speculation. But it's human, not cosmic. The Anunnaki's appeal lies in Sumer's evocative art. Uruk's winged figures look otherworldly, yet they're gods, per Ebla texts. True Sumerian impact shines in finds, like Nippur's 20,000 tablets holding math, lore, and poetry that birthed culture. Modern myths obscure this, but Sumer's real story, humans forging meaning in clay, outshines fiction, linking us to Ur's ziggurats and Gilgamesh's quest.